Hi everyone, welcome back to the Cailin YouTube channel, and if you're new here, welcome. My name is Cailin, and today we're going to be looking at your September 2025 horoscopes. You can watch your horoscope for your ascendant, sun, and moon sign. In fact, I recommend that you do watch for all three because that way you'll have a really well-rounded idea of what you can expect for the month ahead. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook. If you're wanting more regular astrological updates, you can follow me. It's the same handle, which is Cailin. So September is a really exciting month because we have eclipse season. We've got a total lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces and a new moon solar eclipse in the sign of Virgo. So if you're a Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, or Pisces, sun, moon, or rising, definitely be sure to watch your horoscope for that sign because it will be very impactful for you, this eclipse, that is to say. And lastly, just letting you know that I'm actually referring back to my old format where I'm just flowing through the astrological events from the beginning of the month through till the end of the month. And the reason for that is twofold. Firstly, a lot of you said that you prefer those horoscopes, which I was doing before, that they have more flow, and you know what, I tend to agree with you. And secondly, they were taking me probably about twice as long to just execute in totality. So I hope you enjoyed this horoscope. If you do, please give the video a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more content on the channel, please hit the subscribe button, and it would really help me if you could share this video around just to try and grow the channel that little bit more. Thank you so much, and now let's get into your horoscope. Hi Virgo Sun, Moon and Risings, welcome to your September 2025 horoscope. Virgo, this is one of the most important months of the year for you, and that is not because it is Virgo season, although happy birthday to you if you're a September born Virgo. Let me know in the comments below. The reason why this month is important is because we have a new moon solar eclipse in Virgo. So that's occurring on the 21st or 22nd of September, depending where you live in the world. But we are going to go through this month's horoscope in chronological order. So as the month begins, it's still Virgo season, and so that means it's your time to shine. You can be feeling more creatively inspired. There may be exciting opportunities for you professionally speaking, especially if you are a Virgo sun. In general, you could just be feeling more inclined to take risks and put yourself out there. So from the beginning of the month all the way through till the 19th of September, Venus will still be transiting Leo in your 12th house. So the 12th house in astrology is all about our subconscious. It is one of the creative houses though. So Venus going through the 12th house could see you working hard on creative projects. Maybe these are projects that are behind the scenes that you're not really revealing or showcasing to other people just yet. You could be enjoying things like photography, filmography, or perhaps some kind of creative writing project. Wherever Venus transits in terms of the house and also the sign, this is where we can indulge in that house, but also where we can derive a lot of joy and pleasure. So given that the 12th house is associated with yoga and meditation, these things could be important to you during the first 2.5 weeks of the month. Maybe you could have breakthroughs with meditation or your yoga practice, or if you do indulge in these, well, I shouldn't say indulge, but if you do, I suppose, practice yoga and or meditation, then this could lead you to some kind of breakthrough in another area of your life. On a different note, some of you may be attending some kind of retreat during this time. And also the 12th house is associated with donations, charity, as well as really big financial expenses. So you could either be on the receiving end or the giving end of donation and charity. Okay, so if you've been struggling, if you're going through a period of financial hardship, then there may be some kind of windfall of abundance that comes through. Maybe someone is helping you out with resources or finances, but the shoe could be on the other foot because Venus rules over your second house, and your second house is your personal income. So you may actually be donating some of your money, resources, or even just emotional support to someone who is in need. So lastly, with this one, there may be some big financial expenses during the first 2.5 weeks of the month, or perhaps some of you will just be spending a lot of money on things like travel. And I say that because Venus rules over your 9th house, which is Taurus. So Virgo, on the 1st of September, Saturn is going to re-enter the sign of Pisces. Saturn has been in Aries in your 8th house since late May of 2025, but now it's going into your 7th house in Pisces for one last, let's say, hurrah. It's like a 5.5 month period here where Saturn is transiting your 7th house. So the Virgos who will be the most impacted would be those between 25 and 29 degrees. In any case, I see this as one last chance or opportunity to make something work. Now, that could be with a business partner, that could be with a client, with a friend, or maybe even with your significant other. And I say this because Saturn will be closing out this 29.5-year cycle through the sign of Pisces, because Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. So there's definitely some kind of major chapter that's coming to a close. Even if you've already gone through, let's say, a separation, whether that's with an ex-partner or a former business partner, maybe there are loose ends that you need to tie up. And this 5.5 month period is where you're settling the score, so to speak. But like I said at the beginning, maybe there is this opportunity for you to give someone another chance, try and rebuild an important relationship. Maybe you're just recommitting to your partner on a deeper level. Okay, so some of you, when it comes to clients, could be streamlining your clientele list. Maybe you're moving to a closed book situation, or just reducing the amount of clients that you are taking on during this period of time. For others of you, you could be putting together some kind of business proposal, which is going to take you several months, or perhaps it's something that you're wanting to sell, and this could be ready by, February onwards. Okay, so Saturn will re-enter the sign of Aries on the 14th of February. So like I said, we've just got another 5.5 months to go. On the 2nd of September, Mercury is going to enter the sign of Virgo, which means it's going to transit your 1st house. I'm not mentioning this transit for every sign, only for you and for Gemini, and that's because Mercury is your chart ruler, or should I say our chart ruler, as a Virgo moon, Gemini rising myself. So what does this mean? The next 2.5 weeks could be an incredibly busy time for you. So there could be lots of calls, meetings, inquiries, maybe a lot more communications that you would normally have to deal with. So it's a time where your mind will be incredibly sharp, because Mercury is exalted in the sign of Virgo. In saying that, it's a time where you can maybe come off as overly critical. So that could be to others, or that could be some kind of, self-negative talk that you're maybe needing to address. In any case, Mercury rules over your 1st house as well as your 10th house, because your 10th house is Gemini. So you could be taking physical action during this 2.5 week period that can impact your career and your public reputation. So maybe you're taking matters into your own hands, maybe you're having important conversations or making important decisions about your career and the trajectory of said career, or even just your path in life in general. Even if it is unrelated to your career, you could just be thinking really long and hard and having memorable conversations about what the next steps are that you're wanting to take in your life. And this could impact your reputation even, because the 10th house, which Mercury rules over, represents your public reputation. So lastly, could be a big mover and shaker time for making progress in your career. On the 5th of September, Mars in Libra in your 2nd house will square Jupiter in Cancer in your 11th house at 18 degrees. This aspect, this square between Jupiter and Mars, only occurs once every year, so I felt like it was significant and worthy of including. Now, The second house represents our expenses and also our budgets, as well as our personal values. So Mars in your second house could see you maybe making some drastic changes to things like your budget and your expenses, and maybe even the things that you might deem to be luxuries in life. So you could be going through a period where you're living on a shoestring budget, maybe doing away with eating out, not going out to restaurants as much, or curbing your expenses when it comes to things like shopping or just beauty treatments and that kind of thing. So you may be making significant changes to your spending habits, maybe reducing the amount of possessions and belongings that you own. And this could be in favor of pursuing your long-term goals and dreams as indicated by your 11th house. And the 11th house also rules over things like your long-term financial future, investors. It is a very social house in astrology, and it rules over your wider network as well as older siblings. So Jupiter is the planet which represents growth, expansion, abundance, as well as our belief systems. So this clash, if you will, between Mars and Jupiter could see you maybe feeling like your personal values are being challenged by your friends, by older siblings, by people in your wider network, or even your audience if you have, let's say, an online social media presence or platform. And even with your personal values, there could just be this clash between those little luxuries and those things that bring you comfort and the things you like to indulge in, because you're really having to prioritize your long-term goals and future. Lastly, with Jupiter ruling over your 4th house, which represents your family and property, and also your 7th house, which would be your significant other, business partner, etc., you may actually find yourself being the main cash cow that is seeing you invest perhaps a lot of money into a project or a business idea that you want to pursue. So you may be pursuing this with your significant other, a business partner, or maybe even something to do with family, like setting up a business with your family. Or this could be some big financial investments, or even just money that you're putting up that is going towards your property and living situation in some form or another. Now, on the 7th or the 8th of September, depending where you live in the world, there will be a total lunar eclipse in the sign of Pisces at 15 degrees. It's occurring in your 7th house. This is super important for you because this activates your 1st and 7th house axes. So the signs that will be the most impacted by the Pisces eclipse and the Virgo eclipse will be Virgos, Pisces, plus Geminis and Sagittarians. So if you are a Pisces, Gemini, or Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising, then I strongly encourage you to also watch that horoscope as well for September 2025. So getting to the point, a full moon eclipse is like a full moon but on steroids. Now we have different types of eclipses: partial, hybrid, and total. So this being a total lunar eclipse means that it is as impactful as an eclipse possibly could be. So a full moon eclipse in your 7th house can see you reaching some kind of peak point, or perhaps even conclusion, in one of your close personal one-to-one relationships. So if you're in a long-term relationship, or let's just say a serious relationship, you could be committing to each other on another level. Okay, maybe that is getting engaged, getting married, renewing your vows, having an important conversation about where you want to live, what's next in your property and living situation, or perhaps it could be talking about starting a family or starting a business together. Sometimes when I say taking your relationship to the next level, I get a lot of people who say, well, I'm already married and we've had kids and what more is there to do? That's fine. There may just be other ways that this eclipse is going to play out, so just stay tuned. Okay, so in terms of if you do have a significant other, this could indicate that something is happening for them on an individual level outside of your relationship. So maybe they're having an epiphany and a spiritual awakening. They could be making a significant career change. Maybe they are getting pregnant, but being on the 1st and 7th house axes, it could be you, it could be them, just depends. So I'm not going to eliminate the potential for you to maybe fall pregnant. On a different note, you could be launching a business with your significant other. Relationships to the side, right? This could be a time where you are making important arrangements with a business partner or someone that you're wanting to collaborate with. Maybe you're investing in their business or they're investing in your business. You could be changing the terms of your existing contract, or perhaps you are going to work with someone that you've worked with previously and it's now going to be in a new capacity. Maybe there's like a big fish kind of client who lands in your lap. And I say this because this total lunar eclipse is going to make a beautiful trine to Jupiter in Cancer in your 11th house. Also, this particular eclipse will have Saturn at 29 degrees. So there seems to be some kind of huge opportunity that is coming through for you to maybe rebuild or refashion, or it's like you're seeing the fruits of your labor through a one-to-one connection that you have, or it could be a time where you're going your separate ways from another person, a contract that is reaching a conclusion. Okay, so on the 18th of September, Mercury, your ruling planet, is going to finish up in Virgo, your first house, and it's going to enter the sign of Libra in your second house, and it's going to be there until the 6th of October. So Mercury going through the second house can see you really focusing on your finances, your budget, your expenses, because Mercury is your chart ruler. So you're directing a lot of your energy and your effort into matters of the second house. So some of you may be purchasing a new device, purchasing some kind of new gadget, maybe brainstorming ways to generate new streams of income or increase existing forms of income. We could be procuring some kind of important valuable, and maybe you're investing in things like software, apps, technology, like I said, devices, and so on and so forth. The next day, Venus is going to enter the sign of Virgo. So it's going to transit your first house until the 13th of October. I love this. I love when Venus transits the first house. Maybe that's because Venus is in my first house, natally speaking. But in any case, Venus transit your first house is really positive for love, for romance, for creativity. There's certainly more scope for you to experience romance in your life. Maybe you'll be asking someone out on a date. Maybe there are opportunities for you to go out on a few dates. It's a wonderful time to make bold romantic gestures or to even say yes to certain invitations. Even socially speaking, Venus transit the first house can lead to you spending a lot more time with friends. Maybe you'll just be interested in creating art or even attending things like museums, galleries, exhibitions, etc., etc. On a more personal level, this can see you feeling more attractive, more magnetic, or perhaps just coming across as more charming, more harmonious, more diplomatic. And it could even see you indulging in enhancing your appearance. So maybe getting like massages, hair treatments, facials, etc., and just sort of spending money on yourself, or just perhaps even experiencing heightened levels of self-esteem. Now, on the 21st or 22nd of September, depending where you live in the world, we're going to see the new moon solar eclipse in Virgo take place in your first house. So this will be at 29 degrees, although depending where you live in the world, maybe for some of you, it'll be 28 degrees and 59 minutes, but for all intents and purposes, let's just keep it at 29 degrees. So this particular solar eclipse will be almost exactly opposite Saturn at 28 degrees Pisces. It's also going to make a lovely sextile to both Pluto in Aquarius and Uranus in Gemini. Ultimately, new moon solar eclipses are like supercharged new moons. So it's a powerful new beginning that is going to be initiated somehow pretty much in the month of September or maybe even October, given that we can see the effects take place 2 to 4 weeks before or after the eclipse. So how it will play out really depends on your own personal birth chart, but here are a few examples of what can occur. Some of you may be starting a family, or you could be initiating that process to start a family or expand your family further. Some of you may be starting a new job, maybe pursuing a new career path or industry, and you could even just have certain intuitive downloads about what you want to do, whether that is professionally speaking, or even if you're, in your later years in life, it's like, how do I want to spend the rest of that time? So there could be something that involves community, your wider network, something that more so aligns you with your personal values and belief systems. Now, of course, there's potential here to perhaps relocate, invest in property, maybe sell property, or maybe renovate or expand your existing property. Okay, and of course, a lot of Virgos will be seeing big changes in their personal relationships because, again, this activates the 1st and 7th house axes. So romantically speaking, something could start developing, or there may be a significant change to the status of your relationship status, let's say, or your relationship as it is. Also, eclipses can affect us in terms of our health. So there may be a new goal that you're setting for yourself in terms of health. Maybe you are wanting to exercise more or become more health conscious or change your diet, or you could be exploring different healing options and modalities. And of course, there could be a very significant physical transformation that takes place. Sometimes when we have a new moon solar eclipse in our sign, we can basically want to reinvent ourselves, work on self-development, self-improvement. That's what Virgo energy is really about, because Virgo is the sign of service, work, and health. And a new moon solar eclipse is like a new chapter that can encapsulate one of those areas, or if not more. Okay, so there may be some kind of new habit that you are wanting to pursue or implement into your life. Maybe you're wanting to overcome a health challenge or kick an addiction or something of that nature. Now, on the 22nd of September, so after the eclipse, Mars is going to enter the sign of Scorpio. Okay, and it will be transiting your 3rd house until the 4th of November. So wherever Mars goes, this is where, on one level, we can have a lot of determination and energy that we're wanting to funnel into that house. On the other side of things, we can actually be experiencing challenges in that house. So the 3rd house is one of the social houses in astrology. It also rules over things like contracts, sales, marketing, social media, business, clients, co-workers, friends, and siblings. So you may be drawing up important contracts during this period of time, which will last for about 6 weeks. You could be trying to break a contract. That's another way that could be playing out for you. And for others of you, you could be aggressively starting some kind of new marketing campaign or pursuing a client or an important sale. Maybe you're working on putting together some kind of physical prototype, or looking at starting a new website or an app. So Mars is like that initiating energy or period. And others of you may want to start a new business, expand your existing business further, or perhaps there could be some kind of discord with co-workers or challenges that you may experience with friends, siblings, or maybe neighbors. Lastly, the third house is associated with education. So think education courses, short courses, whether that's online, in-person workshops. It's also a house that represents things like skills and writing. So you may be pursuing getting some kind of qualification, diploma, license, or apprenticeship, or you may be looking at creating your own education course or signing up for an education course, or maybe you are going to be starting a new communications piece. So that could be a podcast, that could be a book, that could be even like a new social media platform, which I may have already mentioned. But in any case, I actually find that Mars transiting the third house is usually a very productive time. So Virgo, that's all I have for you for your September horoscope. If you enjoyed this video, please do me a favor and give it a thumbs up, and perhaps even share it around to people that you think may enjoy it. And if you're wanting more content from me in between these horoscopes, then you can follow me on Instagram and or Facebook. Anyway, enjoy your month ahead and enjoy the rest of Virgo season.